Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm going to be doing this video on lesson 3 for the diversity reflection. So, for the first question, how did the two recordings differ? I feel like the first one, part 1, it was more of a negative tone to the whole thing. I was talking about mostly African American kids and how they were struggling to go to good schools, and pretty much all the schools that they were going to in Missouri were unaccredited. And when they tried to go to schools that were accredited, the parents in the communities were throwing fits and they were complaining. And I feel like that was just more negative. And then the second one, even though it was still about segregation, it had a more positive tone. And it was, instead of like talking about how they were pushing children away, they were talking about how they were trying to get kids to go to these schools. Like when they had like the commercials, and they were talking about that the children wanted to be in segregated schools and that it would be better for the white kids if they went to a segregated school because they'd learn more from it, pretty much. Then for the second one, how does info affect children in each circumstance? I think that in the first one, the child, Madi, she, I don't know, I think it was a letdown for her. Like, she was just tired of being let down. She just wanted a good education. She wanted somewhere that she could go to, experience school, and not have to worry about all these negative outcomes of it. And she like, her mother and her just wanted her to go to a good school. And everybody was pushing her down. Everybody kept taking that away from her, like taking the opportunity to get a good education away from her. Whereas in the second one, it was more of getting the children to get better educations. Like, they were actually fighting for the children to get better educations instead of pushing them back. And then, how are some ways you could share this learning with your fellow educators once you start in the field? Well, in education field. So for me personally, I grew up in a very poor community and predominantly African American and Hispanic children. There was only about like 10 white kids that went to my school, myself included. Everybody else was African American or Latino or Asian. And I think that talking about my own experiences going to schools like that and going to a school that had a whole bunch of different races would, be a good thing to talk about with teachers, because when I've been to Missouri, and when I started meeting people from Missouri, they also talked about that education problem talked about in the first one with the Missouri schools. And I was just shocked when I heard about it, because I couldn't believe how how little the teachers really cared about their schools and how many schools were unaccredited. Like, I was really shocked, because I couldn't believe that that's still a problem today, because you would think that it wasn't. And I think talking about your own personal experiences would be the best way to educate, your fellow educators on the topic. And then the last question is, how is this topic beyond a concern beyond something that should be handled in an educational setting? So I think that it should be handled, outside of the educational setting as well, because, a lot of problems in the videos, well, in the recordings that we had to listen to, it seemed like most of the problems were with the parents. And sometimes it's not just the school's fault, it's also the parents' fault as well, especially in the first video, like when all those parents were going up and speaking in the gym, and they were talking about how they better have drug sniffing dogs, and they better have metal detectors, and they better have this, and they better have this and that. And, teaching your kids that that's how other kids are. Like, they were basically telling their kids, or expressing to their kids, that all these kids that are about to come in from normie schools are bad kids. And that wasn't necessarily the case. And I feel like if parents would have been just more open, and they would have talked to their kids and they would have told them, we need to accept these other children. You need to treat them exactly the same. That things would have been a little bit different. It's the parents' responsibility to send their kids to the best school, and it should be also a parent should care about other kids as well. Like if they see that they're struggling or that they're not getting the right education, then they should say something, even if it's not just their kid, because it's affecting the children. Like especially in the first one, I feel like Mari, like when she was just so emotional through the whole thing, and you could tell that it really took a toll on her as a student, and she was so young to be going through that, to have looking at other people and thinking that that's the way that they were judging her, and that's what they were thinking about her, that she was just some low life from some pretty much disgusting community, and that's wasn't how it was. She was one of the top students, and she cared about her education. And then for the last one, when I went to search for public schools, I looked up my own high school. It didn't really pop anything up. The consensus, it didn't pop up like races or anything like that. It just popped up like the teacher to student ratio, and it was 1 to 23 students, one teacher for every 23 students. I came from a really small school, even though it wasn't that good of a school. And the population is high where I'm from Fresno, California. The schools were still pretty small. But I looked at some other schools outside of Fresno, but still in California, like San Francisco or San Diego. And the teacher to student ratio was much higher. It was like one teacher to 50 to 60 students. And that's just outrageous, I think, especially for a high school setting or an elementary school setting. Because in that, like, I'm used to it for college, having maybe one professor for that many students. But by then, you know how to work with education. You know how to do your own research outside the classroom. But for those type of grades, they need that one-on-one interaction, and I think that was the most shocking for me for public schools. And this is the end of my video. Thank you for watching. Sorry, I've never made a video before, so it's kind of off and on and a bit awkward, but thanks for watching. Let me know your comments.